Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the stars. He was a commander in Earth's space fleet, and today was different from all other days. His ship was called the U.E.'s Horizon, and it was one of the best ships that Earth had ever built. At least, that was what everyone in the galaxy thought. The warning sirens began to sound across the bridge. Jake's crew moved quickly to their stations. Something big was happening in space near Earth. The radar operator, a young woman named Amy Clark, called out the news that Jake had been dreading. "Commander, we have multiple contacts coming out of jump space. They're huge, sir. I count at least 200 ships." Jake felt his heart start to beat faster. He had known this day would come, but knowing and experiencing were two different things. The enemy had finally decided to visit Earth. On the main screen, the alien ships began to appear. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. The ships looked like they were made of crystal and light. They moved through space like living things, their hulls glowing with strange colors that hurt to look at directly. These were the ships of the Xanthari Empire, the most powerful force in the known galaxy. They had ruled space for thousands of years, and no one had ever been able to stand against them. Every planet that tried to resist had been destroyed or made into a slave world. Deep underground in Colorado, Admiral Lisa Torres received the emergency call. She was in charge of Earth's defense, and she had been preparing for this moment her whole life. The command center around her was full of people working at computers and talking into headsets. Everyone looked worried. "Admiral, the Xanthari fleet is taking position around our solar system," reported Colonel Pete Davis. "They're blocking all the exit routes." Lisa nodded. She had expected this. The Xanthari always did the same thing. They would surround the planet, cut off all escape routes, and then deliver their demands. It was a system that had worked for them for centuries. The main screen in the command center flickered to life. The face that appeared was not human. It had 6 arms, purple skin, and eyes that glowed like fire. This was High Regent Vexthu, the leader of the Xanthari Empire's military forces. "Humans of Earth," the alien's voice came through the speakers. It sounded like gravel being crushed. "I am High Regent Vexthu of the Xanthari Empire. You will listen to my words and obey." Lisa felt anger rise in her chest, but she kept her face calm. Around the room, her staff stopped what they were doing to watch the screen. "Your species has grown beyond the limits we set for you," Vexthu continued. "You have built colonies on worlds that do not belong to you. You have sent ships to places where you are not welcome. This ends today." The alien held up one of his 6 hands. "I give you 72 of your Earth hours to make your choice. You will remove all humans from the colony worlds. You will destroy your space fleet. You will accept Xanthari rule over your planet. If you do not do these things, we will destroy every human in this solar system." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in complete silence. Lisa looked around at her people. She saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. They had all known this day would come. President Maria Rodriguez arrived at the command center within an hour. She was a small woman, but she carried herself like someone who was used to making hard decisions. With her came Defense Secretary Robert Hayes, a tall man with gray hair who had spent his whole career preparing for war. "Options?" the president asked Lisa. "Publicly, we have 12 ships and about 50,000 people in our space forces," Lisa replied. "The Xanthari have over 200 ships in this system alone, and each one is bigger and more powerful than anything we've ever built. At least, that's what they think." Robert Hayes smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Should we tell them the truth?" "Not yet," Lisa said. "We stick to the plan. Let them think they're dealing with a primitive species that just learned to fly." "Between the stars." The president nodded. "How long do we have?" 72 hours, Lisa answered. "But we won't need that long." Across the solar system, secret messages began to flow through channels that the Xanthari did not know existed. Dr. Elena Vasquez, working in a laboratory that was officially just a research station, received her orders and began to activate systems that had been waiting for over 200 years. Deep under the Pacific Ocean, machines that had been built by human hands but used alien technology began to wake up. In asteroid belts that looked empty to outside observers, hidden bases started to power up their engines. On the moon, in places that appeared to be simple mining operations, weapons that could crack planets began to charge their batteries. Jake Morrison, still on the bridge of the UE's horizon, received new orders through a communication channel that was supposed to be impossible. The message was simple: "Stand ready. The masquerade ends in 60 hours. He looked at his crew, all of whom had received similar messages. They were all part of the secret, and they had all trained for this moment. What the galaxy thought it knew about humanity was about to change forever. The Xanthari fleet continued to take positions around Earth's solar system. They moved slowly and confidently, like predators who knew their prey could not escape. They had done this hundreds of times before, and it always ended the same way. But High Regent Vexthul did not know that humanity had been watching the Xanthari for 2 centuries. He did not know that every move the Empire made had been studied and planned for. He did not know that the weak, primitive species he was threatening had been preparing for this exact moment since before his grandfather was born. The countdown had begun, and in less than 3 days, the galaxy would learn what humanity was really capable of. Captain Ryan Brooks had never felt so nervous in his life. He stood on the bridge of the UE's Defender, watching the massive Xanthari ships move closer to Earth. His ship was supposed to be one of the most powerful vessels in the human fleet. But compared to the alien dreadnoughts, it looked like a toy. "Captain, we're receiving sealed orders," said Lieutenant Karen White, his communications officer. She looked confused as she read the message. "These orders are marked with clearance. Codes I've never seen before." Ryan took the message and read it carefully. His eyes grew wide as he understood what he was reading. The orders told him to take his ship to a specific location in the asteroid belt and wait for further instructions. But that was not the shocking part. The shocking part was the signature at the bottom and the clearance level required to read it. "Ma'am, this message is signed by Admiral Steve Jackson," Ryan said quietly. "But Admiral Jackson died 3 years ago in a training accident." Karen frowned. "That's impossible, sir. I was at his funeral." Ryan looked at the message again. "According to the orders, Admiral Jackson was not only alive, but was commanding something called the True Fleet from a ship called the UES Apocalypse." Ryan had never heard of either. Across the solar system, similar messages were being received by other ship commanders. Each message contained information that should have been impossible. Dead officers giving orders. Ships that did not exist on any official list. Bases that were not supposed to be there. Colonel Michelle Adams sat in her office at Space Command Headquarters, watching the chaos unfold on her screens. She was the head of something called Stellar Intelligence, a department that most people in the military did not even know existed. Her job was to make sure that certain secrets stayed hidden until the right moment. That moment was now. Michelle activated her personal communication device and sent a message to 12 people scattered across Earth and its colonies. Within minutes, those 12 people were sending messages to hundreds more. The network that had been built over 2 centuries was finally being used for its true purpose. In a laboratory in Switzerland, Dr. Andrew Chun received his activation order and smiled. He had been waiting for this day for 30 years. Around him, his research team began to remove covers from machines that had been hidden in plain sight. What looked like simple computers were actually control systems for weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Dr. Susan Matthews was in her office at the Kepler space station when her orders arrived. To the outside world, Kepler station was a small research outpost studying distant stars. In reality, it was one of the most important military command centers in human space. Susan walked to a wall panel and entered a code that she had memorized decades ago, but never been allowed to use. The wall opened to reveal a room full of screens, computers, and communication equipment. In the center of the room was a chair that looked like it belonged on a starship bridge. This was her real office, and she was about to become one of the most important people in the galaxy. Lieutenant Commander Tony Rodriguez was on patrol near Mars when everything changed. His small patrol ship suddenly detected massive energy signatures coming from locations that were supposed to be empty space. His sensors showed ships, stations, and weapons platforms that had not been there an hour ago. "This is impossible," said his navigation officer, Ensign Lisa Grant. "There are over 50 major installations out there, and they're all showing up as human constructions." Tony knew it was not impossible. He had been briefed on the truth 6 months ago when he was selected for a special assignment. What seemed impossible was actually the result of the most successful deception in galactic history. The truth was simple but shocking. Humanity had been lying to the galaxy for 200 years. It had started in 1847, when something crashed in the forests of Siberia. The official story was that it was a meteorite, but the truth was very different. It was a ship from an alien civilization, and it contained technology that was far beyond what humans had developed on their own. The governments of Earth had made a decision that would change everything. Instead of revealing the discovery to the world, they had hidden it. They had studied the alien technology in secret, learned from it, and used it to advance human civilization in ways that no one could imagine. While the world thought that humans were just learning to build rockets and satellites, the secret project was building starships. While people celebrated the first human steps on the moon, the hidden bases were already sending ships to other solar systems. While the public watched primitive space shuttles, the real human fleet was exploring the galaxy and learning about alien civilizations. The deception had been perfect. To the outside galaxy, humans looked like a young species that had just discovered space travel. The Xanthari Empire had classified Earth as a primitive world that posed no threat to galactic order. They had been completely wrong. Dr. Patricia Hayes stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching as systems that had been hidden for decades came online. Luna Base was supposed to be a simple mining operation, but it was actually one of the most advanced military facilities in the galaxy. The mining equipment was actually weapon systems that could destroy entire planets. "All stations are reporting ready," said Commander Bill Nelson, her second in command. "The fleet is moving into position." Patricia nodded and opened a communication channel to Earth. "Admiral Torres, this is Luna Base. We are ready to drop the masquerade." Back on Earth, Admiral Torres was meeting with the President and the Defense Secretary in the Secure Command Center. The room was filled with displays showing the true extent of human military power. There were over 3,000 ships in the human fleet, hidden in bases throughout the solar system and beyond. "The Xanthari think they're dealing with 12 ships and 50,000 people," Lisa said to the President. "The truth is that we have a military force larger than most galactic empires." President Rodriguez looked at the displays showing human ships that were more advanced than anything the Xanthari had ever built. "How long have we been preparing for this?" 2 centuries, Robert Hayes answered. "Every president since 1847 has known the truth and contributed to the preparation. We've been studying alien technology, building hidden bases, and training secret forces for this exact moment." The president took a deep breath. "Then let's show them what humanity is really capable of." The order went out across the solar system. Hidden bases began to power up their shields and weapons. Stealth fields that had hidden entire fleets for decades started to shut down. Ships that had been disguised as asteroids revealed their true. Nature Captain Ryan Brooks, still following his mysterious orders, arrived at the coordinates in the asteroid belt. What he found there made him forget how to breathe. Where there should have been empty space, there was a massive space station surrounded by hundreds of ships. And at the center of the formation was a dreadnought that was 10 times larger than anything he had ever seen. UES Defender, this is Admiral Steve Jackson aboard the UES Apocalypse, came a voice over the radio. Welcome to the real fleet, Captain. It's time to show the galaxy who we really are. The first sign that something was wrong came from the Zenthari sensor stations. Technical Officer Zekmar was monitoring the human solar system when his instruments began showing readings that made no sense. Energy signatures were appearing everywhere, coming from locations that his scans had shown as empty space just hours before. Commander, Zekmar called to his superior, his voice shaking. The humans are showing massive energy spikes across their entire system, but that's impossible. Our intelligence says they only have 12 ships. Commander Vorthak moved to look at the sensor displays. What he saw made his blood run cold. The readings showed hundreds of large objects suddenly appearing throughout the solar system. Each one was producing energy signatures that matched or exceeded their own warships. This must be a sensor malfunction, Vorthak said, but his voice did not sound confident. Run a full diagnostic on all systems. While the Zenthari tried to understand what their sensors were telling them, Captain Kyle Anderson stood on the bridge of the UES Leviathan and watched the greatest reveal in galactic history unfold. His ship had been hidden behind a stealth field for the past 6 months, waiting for this exact moment. All stations, this is Anderson. He spoke into his communication system. Execute Order Lazarus. Drop all stealth fields and reveal the true fleet. Across the solar system, the same order was being given on hundreds of ships. Stealth technology that had been perfected over 2 centuries began to shut down. The invisible became visible, and the galaxy was about to see what humanity had really been building in secret. Near Jupiter, what had appeared to be a simple mining operation suddenly revealed itself as a massive military shipyard. The mining equipment folded away to show weapon systems that could destroy entire fleets. The storage containers opened to reveal fighter squadrons that had been waiting for decades to fly into battle. Around Saturn's rings, asteroid mining stations showed their true purpose. They were fortress-class battleships, each one carrying enough firepower to level a planet. Their hulls were covered with weapons that used technology the Zenthari had never seen before. Captain Lavra Phillips commanded the UES Retribution, a ship that had been disguised as a simple cargo vessel. As the stealth field around her ship disappeared, she looked out at the Zenthari fleet with satisfaction. Her ship was 3 times larger than the biggest enemy vessel, and it was just one of hundreds. "Ma'am, we're receiving communications from the Zenthari fleet," reported her communications officer, Lieutenant Dan Miller. "They're demanding to know how we built so many ships so quickly." Lavra smiled. "Tell them we didn't build them quickly. We built them over 2 centuries, and we've been waiting for them to notice." Admiral Steve Jackson sat in the command chair of the UES Apocalypse, the flagship of humanity's hidden fleet. The ship was a marvel of engineering, combining human innovation with alien technology that had been studied and improved for generations. It was larger than any ship in the Zenthari fleet, and it was not even the biggest vessel in the human armada. "Admiral, all fleet units are reporting ready," said Commander Janet Reed, his second in command. "We have 3,200 ships in formation, with more arriving from the outer colonies." Steve nodded and opened a communication channel. to the Xanthari fleet. It was time to have a conversation that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. High Regent Vexthul, Steve's voice carried across space with calm authority. This is Admiral Steve Jackson of the Human Defense Fleet. I believe you wanted to speak with someone in charge. The main screen on the Apocalypse's bridge flickered to life, showing the alien commander. Vexthul's 6 arms were moving in what humans had learned was a sign of extreme agitation. His glowing eyes were wide with shock and something that looked like fear. This is impossible, Vexthul said, his voice no longer carrying the same confidence it had before. Our intelligence reports show that humans have only 12 primitive vessels. Where did this fleet come from? Steve leaned back in his chair. Your intelligence was wrong, Regent. What you saw was what we wanted you to see. The 12 ships you knew about were decoys, designed to make you think we were weak and primitive. The truth is quite different. On the bridge of the UE's Vengeance, Captain Jason Wright was enjoying the confusion in the Xanthari fleet. His ship was equipped with the most advanced propulsion system ever built, allowing it to move instantly from one location to another. To demonstrate this capability, he ordered his ship to jump from its position near Earth to a spot directly in front of the Xanthari flagship. The enemy crew panicked as the massive human ship appeared out of nowhere, close enough to fire directly into their bridge. But Jason had no intention of starting a fight just yet. He wanted them to understand what they were dealing with. Xanthari flagship, this is Captain Wright, he said over the communication channel. As you can see, we have capabilities that your intelligence reports did not mention. This is just one example of what we can do. Dr. Patricia Hayes was coordinating the reveal from Luna Command, a facility that had been hidden beneath the moon's surface for over a century. Around her, technicians worked at control stations that managed the deployment of humanity's secret weapons. All stealth fields are down, reported Lieutenant Commander Gary Foster. The enemy fleet is getting a full view of our capabilities. Patricia opened a channel to the Xanthari fleet. High Regent Vexthul, this is Dr. Patricia Hayes of Luna Command. What you are seeing is the result of 2 centuries of preparation. We have been studying your empire, learning about your technology, and building the tools necessary to defend ourselves. The Xanthari commander's image appeared on her screen. You have been spying on the Empire for 200 years? That is impossible. We would have detected your presence. You detected what we wanted you to detect, Patricia replied. We have been operating in your territory for generations, studying your weaknesses and preparing for this moment. Did you really think that a species capable of space travel would remain primitive for so long? Captain Danny Morgan commanded the UES Defiance, a ship that specialized in defensive systems. His vessel was equipped with shield technology that could absorb and redirect enemy weapons' fire, turning their own attacks against them. As the Xanthari fleet began to realize the scope of what they were facing, some of their commanders started to make threatening moves. Admiral Jackson, this is Morgan, Danny reported. I'm reading weapons charging on several Xanthari vessels. They may be preparing to attack. Steve Jackson's reply came immediately. All ships maintain defensive positions. Do not fire unless fired upon. Let them make the first move. The tension in space was thick enough to cut with a knife. The Xanthari fleet, which had arrived expecting to intimidate a primitive species, now found themselves surrounded by a force that was clearly superior to their own. Their ships, which had seemed so impressive just hours before, now looked small and outdated compared to the human vessels. High Regent Vexthul was faced with a choice that no Xanthari commander had ever had to make. His empire had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years by being the strongest force in space. Now, suddenly, they were not the strongest anymore. Human Admiral, Vexthul said, his voice carrying a mixture of anger and fear. Even if you have more ships than we expected, you are still just one species. The Empire has allies throughout the galaxy. We can call for reinforcements. Steve Jackson smiled. Please do, Regent. We would be interested to meet them. But first, you should know that what you see here is just the beginning. This is only the home fleet. We have similar forces stationed throughout the galaxy, in systems that your Empire believes are uninhabited. As if to prove his point, new energy signatures began appearing at the edge of the solar system. More human ships were arriving, not from hidden bases within the system, but from other star systems entirely. The Xanthari were beginning to understand that humanity's deception had been far more extensive than they had imagined. The balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted, and there was no going back. High Regent Vexthal stared at the tactical display, showing the human fleet that surrounded his forces. His pride, built over centuries of easy victories, would not allow him to accept what he was seeing. The Xanthari Empire had never retreated from a fight, and he would not be the first commander to do so. Communications Officer Kethval, Vexthal commanded, his 6 arms moving in aggressive patterns. Send a message to the Imperial Fleet Command. Tell them we need immediate reinforcements. Every ship they can spare. Yes, High Regent, Kethval replied, but his voice carried doubt. Should I tell them about the human fleet size? Tell them that the humans have more ships than expected, but do not mention the exact numbers. They would not believe it anyway. Vexthal turned to his weapons officer. Charge all planet-killer weapons. Target the human homeworld. If we cannot have easy victory, we will at least complete our mission. The planet-killer weapons were the Xanthari Empire's most feared instruments of war. Each one could crack a planet in half or boil away its atmosphere. They had been used to destroy hundreds of worlds that had dared to resist Imperial rule. Captain Danny Morgan was monitoring Xanthari communications from his position aboard the UEC Defiance when he detected the energy buildup. His ships advanced. Sensors could read the weapons signatures from across the solar system. Admiral Jackson, this is Morgan, he reported urgently. The Xanthari are charging their planet-killer weapons. They're targeting Earth. Steve Jackson's response was immediate and calm. All ships maintain positions. Morgan, move your ship to intercept those weapons. Show them what our defensive systems can do. Danny smiled grimly. He had been waiting for this moment for years. His ship was equipped with the most advanced defensive technology ever created. Systems that could not only stop planet-killer weapons, but turn their power against the attackers. The first planet-killer weapon fired. From the Xanthari flagship, a massive bolt of energy that could destroy continents. Danny positioned his ship directly in the weapon's path and activated his experimental shield system. Instead of trying to block the weapon, the UE's Defiance absorbed it completely. The ship's hull glowed with captured energy as the defensive systems converted the destructive power into fuel for the human weapons. In seconds, the planet-killer weapon had been neutralized and its energy stored for later use. Impossible, Vexthal whispered as he watched his most powerful weapon disappear harmlessly into the human ship. Fire all weapons. Target that ship. The entire Xanthari fleet opened fire on the UE's Defiance. Hundreds of energy weapons and missile systems targeted the single human vessel. The space around Danny's ship filled with deadly fire that should have destroyed any known vessel in seconds. But the UE's Defiance did not explode. Instead, it continued to absorb every weapon that hit it. The ship's shields converted the enemy fire into more power, making the human vessel stronger with each attack. Admiral Beth Cooper was coordinating the human response from the command center that had materialized near Mars. The facility looked like a small space station, but it was actually one of the most advanced military command centers in the galaxy. All fleet units, this is Admiral Cooper, she announced. The enemy has chosen to fight. Proceed with Operation Revelation. Show them what 2 centuries of preparation can accomplish. Captain Rick Martinez commanded the UES Tempest, a ship that specialized in non-lethal weapon systems. His job was to disable enemy vessels without destroying them, demonstrating humanity's technological superiority while avoiding unnecessary deaths. Tempest to all ships, Rick announced. Beginning quantum disruption field deployment. All Xanthari vessels will be disabled in sequence. The quantum disruption field was a weapon that the Xanthari had never encountered before. It did not destroy ships or kill crews. Instead, it interfered with the basic quantum processes that allowed their technology to function. Within minutes, entire sections of the enemy fleet found their weapons, shields, and engines completely shut down. What are they doing to us? Demanded Vexthal as his own flagship began to lose power. Our bioorganic systems are failing. This should be impossible. His science officer, a creature named Yathan, was frantically working at his station. High Regent, the humans are using some kind of quantum interference weapon. Our bioorganic technology cannot function under these conditions. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for centuries. The Xanthari fleet, which had dominated the galaxy for thousands of years, found itself completely helpless against human technology that seemed to break the laws. Of Physics. Captain Kyle Anderson, aboard the UES Leviathan, demonstrated weapons that could disable entire squadrons of enemy ships with a single shot. His vessel moved through space like it was swimming through water, avoiding enemy fire while delivering precisely targeted attacks. Anderson to Fleet Command, he reported. Enemy Squadron 7 is disabled, moving to assist Squadron 12. The Xanthari discovered that their most advanced weapons had no effect on human ships. Energy weapons were absorbed and converted to power. Kinetic weapons were stopped by shields that seemed to be made of solid force. Even their most secret weapons, developed over millennia of warfare, were useless against human defenses. Admiral Carl Thompson had been waiting in the Centauri system with a fleet that was supposed to be humanity's first interstellar colony mission. When the order came, he brought his ships through jump space to join the battle at Earth. "This is Admiral Thompson with the Centauri Defense Force," he announced as his fleet materialized at the edge of the solar system. "We have 47 ships ready to assist." The arrival of reinforcements from another star system shocked the Centauri even more than the revelation of the hidden fleet. It meant that humans had been operating in multiple star systems for years, building bases and fleets in areas that the Empire thought were empty. Admiral Nancy Foster brought her ships from the Tau Ceti system, where humans had been secretly established for over 50 years. Her fleet included ships that had been built using resources from multiple star systems, vessels that incorporated technology from a dozen different alien species. "Foster to Jackson," she reported. "Tau Ceti. Liberation Fleet is in position. We have 62 ships ready for action." Within 6 hours, the mighty Xanthari fleet that had come to destroy humanity was completely defeated. Not a single human ship had been lost, and casualties were minimal on both sides. The enemy vessels floated in space, their crews alive, but their ships powerless. High Regent Vexthal sat in his command chair, staring at the displays that showed his disabled fleet. Everything he had believed about the galaxy and his empire's place in it had been shattered in a single day. "Admiral Jackson," he said, his voice carrying defeat, "I request permission to speak with you directly." Steve Jackson materialized as a hologram on the Xanthari bridge. Behind him, the displays showed the massive human fleet that had appeared from nowhere to change the balance of galactic power. "High Regent," Steve said with respect in his voice, "you fought bravely, but this was always going to be the outcome. We have been preparing for this encounter for 2 centuries. Every move your empire has made has been studied and planned for. Vex, though, looked at the human admiral with something like admiration. "How long have you been operating in our territory?" "Since before your great-grandfather was born," Steve replied. "We have bases in over 200 star systems that your empire believes are uninhabited. We have been watching, learning, and preparing for the day when you would come to Earth." The Centauri commander realized that his empire's intelligence services had been completely fooled for generations. "What happens now?" Steve Jackson smiled. "Now we talk. Humanity has no desire to conquer your empire, but we will never again allow ourselves to be threatened or underestimated. The galaxy is about to change, and we want to make sure it changes for the better. The battle of Sol was over, but the real work was just beginning. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity had announced its presence as a major power in the most dramatic way possible. The news of the Battle of Sol spread across the galaxy faster than anyone had expected. Within days, every major civilization knew that the Centauri Empire had been defeated by a species that most had never heard of. The implications were staggering, and the political structure of the galaxy began to shift immediately. Ambassador Kevin Turner had never expected to be humanity's first official representative to the Galactic Council. He had been working as a trade negotiator for the colonies when everything changed. Now he found himself aboard a ship heading for Nexus Prime, the neutral station where the galaxy's major powers met to discuss important matters. "Ambassador, we're receiving communications from over 30 different species," reported his aide, Lieutenant Sarah Johnson. "They all want to establish diplomatic relations with Earth." Kevin looked out at the stars and tried to process what had happened. A week ago, humanity had been considered a minor species that had just learned to travel between stars. Now, they were being treated as one of the most important powers in the galaxy. "Send polite responses to all of them," Kevin said. "Tell them, we look forward to establishing peaceful relations, but that we need time to process recent events." The escort fleet that accompanied Kevin's ship was impressive enough to make other species take notice. 12 human warships, each one larger and more advanced than anything the Galactic Council had ever seen, surrounded the diplomatic vessel. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer asking for permission to exist. Back on Earth, Director Jennifer Stone was dealing with the aftermath of the revelation. As head of the Human Intelligence Service, she had been responsible for keeping humanity's true capabilities secret for decades. Now, she was tasked with revealing just enough information to establish Earth's position without giving away all of their advantages. "The Galactic Council is demanding full disclosure of our military capabilities," reported Agent Mark Collins, one of her senior officers. "They want to know exactly how many ships we have and where they're located." Jennifer smiled coldly. "Tell them we have enough ships to defend ourselves and our allies. The exact numbers are classified for security reasons." The truth was that even Jennifer did not know the full extent of humanity's military power. The various secret projects had been compartmentalized for security reasons, and some installations had been so well hidden that they were only now being revealed to Earth's leadership. President Rodriguez was meeting with world leaders in the secure conference room beneath the United Nations building. The room had been expanded overnight to accommodate the new reality of Earth's position in galactic politics. "The economic opportunities are incredible," said Trade Representative Paul Davis. "We have technology that could revolutionize entire industries across dozens of species. The potential profits are beyond calculation. But we have to be careful," warned Security Advisor Janet Murphy. "We don't want to destabilize the galactic economy or create new enemies by advancing too quickly." The president nodded. "Our priority is establishing peaceful relations with the major powers. We want to be seen as a stabilizing force, not a threat to the existing order." Dr. Karen White was working in her laboratory, preparing to reveal medical advances that could extend lifespans across multiple species. Her research team had been studying alien biology for decades, developing treatments that could cure diseases that had plagued galactic civilization for millennia. The Xanthari have a genetic condition that affects nearly half their population, she explained to the medical team. We've developed a treatment that could eliminate it completely. This could be the foundation for a new relationship with their empire. Dr. Frank Miller was having similar discussions about energy technology. His team had developed power systems that could provide unlimited clean energy to any species that adopted them. The implications for galactic civilization were enormous. We could end resource scarcity across the galaxy, he told the Energy Committee. But we have to be careful about how we release this technology. Too much change too quickly could cause social upheaval. The most important meeting was taking place aboard the UES Redemption, where High Regent Vexthil was being held as a prisoner of war. Captain Lisa Barnes had been chosen to conduct the negotiations because of her diplomatic training and her understanding of Xanthari culture. Your empire has two choices, Lisa explained to the former regent. You can accept the new reality and work with us to establish a peaceful relationship, or you can continue to resist and face the consequences. Vexthal had spent days thinking about his situation. His empire, which had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, had been defeated by a species that had pretended to be primitive. The humiliation was complete, but he was beginning to understand that humanity offered something his empire had never experienced, the possibility of partnership instead of domination. Captain Barnes, he said finally, I have been a military commander for over 3 centuries. I have conquered hundreds of worlds and destroyed species that resisted imperial rule. But I have never encountered anything like what your people accomplished. Lisa nodded. We don't want to destroy your empire, Regent. We want to transform it. The galaxy is big enough for all of us, but it has to be based on cooperation, not conquest. The Galactic Council meeting at Nexus Prime was unlike anything in recorded history. Ambassador Kevin Turner walked into the great assembly hall, accompanied by an honor guard of human soldiers wearing armor that incorporated technology from a dozen different worlds. The other ambassadors, representing species that had dominated galactic politics for millennia, watched in silence as the humans took their seats. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Kevin began his speech. Humanity comes before you not as conquerors, but as partners. We have revealed our true capabilities not to threaten you, but to establish our right to exist as equals in this galaxy. The response was immediate and chaotic. Ambassador Zethkal of the Hegemony, a collection of militaristic species, stood up angrily. You have deceived the entire galaxy for centuries. How can we trust anything you say? Kevin remained calm. We deceived you because we had to. Every species in this room achieved their position through strength. We simply chose to hide our strength until we needed it. Now that the deception is over, we can begin building real relationships. The economic implications were already being felt across the galaxy. Human technology was being offered selectively to species that showed willingness to establish peaceful relations. The medical advances developed by Dr. Karen White were being used to treat diseases that had been considered incurable. The energy systems created by Dr. Frank Miller were providing clean power to worlds that had struggled with resource shortages for generations. Representative Paul Davis was negotiating agreements that would reshape galactic commerce. We're not trying to control the economy, he explained to a gathering of merchant species. We want to participate in it as equals. Our technology can benefit everyone, but it has to be based on mutual respect and fair trade. The military situation was also stabilizing. Admiral Lisa Torres, now serving as Earth's first galactic defense coordinator, was working with former enemies to establish new protocols for interstellar security. The old system was based on fear and domination. she explained to a gathering of military leaders from across the galaxy. The new system will be based on cooperation and mutual defense. We're willing to share our defensive technologies with species that commit to peaceful coexistence. The Xanthari Empire was undergoing the most dramatic transformation. With Vexthil's cooperation, human advisors were helping to restructure the imperial government from a conquest-based system to one focused on trade and cultural exchange. Commander Janet Red, who had been assigned to work with Xanthari military leaders, was amazed by how quickly the former empire was adapting. "They're actually grateful for the change," she reported to Earth Command. "Many of their officers were tired of the constant warfare. They want to try something new." A signing of the Soul Accords took place 6 months after the Battle of Sol. The ceremony was held aboard Nexus Prime, with representatives from over 100 species in attendance. The Accords established humanity as a major galactic power while setting new standards for how civilizations would interact with each other. President Rodriguez signed the document on behalf of humanity, her hand steady as she wrote her name on an agreement that would govern galactic relations for centuries to come. "Today marks the beginning of a new era," she said to the assembled representatives. "An era based on cooperation, understanding, and mutual respect." Admiral Steve Jackson, now serving as commander of the Joint Human Galactic Defense Force, watched the ceremony from the observation deck of the U.E.'s Apocalypse. His ship, along with vessels from dozens of other species, formed a protective fleet around the station. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from across the galaxy," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Tom Wilson. 12 more species have requested to join the Soul Accords. The hegemony is asking for a formal alliance. Even the isolated crystalline collective is sending diplomatic envoys. Steve smiled. "Send positive responses to all of them. Make it clear that we welcome any species that's willing to work for galactic peace."